So you see a lot of things as a journalist, but this bizarre press conference announcing the name of the suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination probably goes down to one of the most bizarre of all time. They're trying to play Kirk as a national hero and part of the U.S. fabric, similar to like a Trump or J.D. Vance, which he's not. But we'll stick to the facts because it was a crazy press conference, and I don't want to see it ever again. Now, according to CBC, Charlie Kirk shooting suspect is in custody, officials announce. FBI, Utah police update investigation into the shooting of influential conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The suspect was named as Tyler Robinson, 22, a resident of Utah. Officials learned Thursday evening about the suspect through tips from family members and friends. Governor Spencer Cox made the announcement surrounded by police and FBI officials. Cox, a MAGA Republican, said officials had heard from those close to the suspect. They had grown more political recently, was opposed to Kirk's beliefs. Kirk's Turning Point USA organization had scheduled 2 campus events in September in Utah. Kirk, 31, was shot while speaking before a gathering outdoors at Utah Valley University on Wednesday in Orem, Utah. FBI Director Kash Patel said the full weight of the federal government was brought to bear since the shooting, in addition to the work of local police and images and video shared through the media. Information on the arrests or charges was not immediately forthcoming, but Cox said it was believed the suspect acted alone. U.S. President Donald Trump earlier suggested arrests had been made in a Fox News interview, saying he learned the development just before arriving on Sept. Now, Kirk was a supporter of Trump dating back to Republicans' first presidential campaign in 2016. Trump, in turn, has expressed admiration for the 31-year-old influencer. Now, Kirk was killed by a single shot Wednesday in what police said was a targeted attack. Authorities recovered a high-powered bolt-action rifle near the scene and said the shooter jumped off a roof and vanished into the woods after the shooting. The attack, carried out in broad daylight as Kirk spoke against U.S. gun violence, was captured on grisly videos that spread on social media. Investigators said the suspect blended into the campus crowd because of his college-age appearance. Now, various published reports will be going around over the next couple of days, but as it stands right now, BBC had a very interesting timeline was released. According to BBC, during the news conference earlier, FBI Director Kash Patel gave a timeline of events leading up to Tyler Robinson's capture. At 12:23 local time, Kirk was shot. Within 16 minutes, the first agents had arrived and secured the scene. Now, the FBI immediately launched fixed-wing assets to transport special personnel and evidence. The first set of FBI photos of the suspects was released at 10 o'clock local time yesterday. At 10:45 local time yesterday, the FBI award of $100,000 was announced. At 8 o'clock, the governor led a press conference with video images of the suspect released, and at 10 o'clock last night, the suspect was taken into custody. Utah governor said the suspect, Robinson, was not a student at Utah Valley University where the shooting happened. Spencer Cox adds he does not have information on whether Robinson had a history of mental illness. Robinson had for a long time been living with his family in Washington County in southwest Utah, about 3 hours away from the university, the governor says. The governor then says he anticipates charging documents will be filed early next week. Now, a reporter asked Utah Governor Cox how investigators tracked the suspect, Tyler Robinson, down. We know that Robinson drove, Cox says. His car was on campus and he drove south back to Washington City in Washington County, Utah. Another journal asked whether Kirk's death represent a watershed moment for the U.S. This is a watershed moment, but we don't yet know what kind. He says this moment feels a lot like the late 60s and describes social media as a cancer, adding that humans are not biologically capable of processing violent imagery. Now, taking questions from journalists, the Utah governor was asked whether there is a potential for further arrests. We do not have information at this time that will lead to additional arrests, but an investigation is ongoing. Now, there was a whole bunch of rhetoric at there, mentioned that there were things, I think, some kind of markings on either the metal for the bullets or whatever. Made absolutely no sense, but you can go say. Now, according to Cox, he's a MAGA Republican. I've been as angry as I've ever been, as sad as I've ever been. He quotes Kirk as saying, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. He adds that young people loved and hated Charlie, and he went into those places anyway, but he went in with no security, ladies and gentlemen. Now, he then addresses young people and says, you're inheriting a country when politics feels like rage. It feels like rage is the only option. Again, the governor said is an attack on all of us. I really don't believe that. I believe that some of the Republicans basically thought this guy was going to be president of the United States, and didn't go the right thing. So his family, of course, I guess, turned him over. Who they believe the Utah governor said did the right thing and brought him to law enforcement. Now, they found various messages on the bullet casings. I'm not going to say what it said, but like I said, hey, fascist catch. I think that's going to stand out more than anything else. Now, the investigators also reviewed messages with suspect's roommate and talked about the usage of the gun. Now, Cox's investigators reviewed video footage of the individual and identified Robinson arriving in a Dodge Challenger vehicle at approximately 8:29 local time on September 10th. When encountered in person by investigators on 12th of September, which is today, he was observed in clothing consistent to that in the footage, include a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat, and with a white logo, and light-colored shirts. Now, when the governor says we got him, I think that's kind of conjecture instead of he's making himself part of the story. But the idea is, ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Kirk was eschewing hate for years. He was going on campuses with no security. He could easily have been stabbed, but he was shot. And most people in rural Utah know how to use guns. Now, if this person was against Kirk and he was quite young, and I don't think, like you said, it's hard to believe what would be in a person's mind. Millions and millions of people enjoyed Charlie Kirk and what he was doing. He was standing up for what they believed in. But maybe in this case it was tipped towards more the people that disliked him. I know across Canada a lot of Canadians are not surprised that this guy got a bullet. That's how we say it in Canada, he's going to get a bullet. Now, Donald Trump might be next. I don't wish violence on anybody, but don't be surprised if something happens down the road to Vance or anybody else. Because if you say if this guy can do it, and, it's going to be interesting next few weeks. I don't think it's going to do anything much politically because we're not in that cycle right now. And nobody's going to vote for Poilievre because Kirk was killed. If anything, they might vote more for Carney. This could be more of a victory for the centrists and left than the right wing. Because, embracing something that makes only one side like it's no sense. But again, I'm sorry he was killed, but like I said, a lot of people are saying, I told you so, or what goes around comes around. So that's the story about Charlie Kirk's alleged killing suspect. Please let us know what you think. There's no comments on this, so don't even try. Have a good one.